Hey there, doll enthusiasts. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy you found your way to this creative corner of the internet, and today's video is my third in the series where I'm customizing all 9 of the YOU CREATE Barbie Basics dolls. These dolls come bald with removable wigs, and while I do like the wigs, customizing them is just so much more fun for me. It's how I play with my dolls. I find that I really connect with the dolls I've customized rather than the ones that come looking perfect straight out of the box. In this video, I'm working with kit number 3, my favorite from this batch. I'm giving her some beautiful long blue curly hair, and the idea is to match it with her gorgeous blue eyeliner for a complete look. I'll be honest, I was a little nervous to work on her since I loved how she looked in the wigs, but once I started, I knew I had to go for it. I'll show you how I decided on her hairline, the pattern I used to root the hair, and fun new little twist. I'm adding some flair to the look by dip dyeing the hair with darker blue ends. It's going to be so fun to see how she turns out. Let's jump into it. Yikes, here we go. I already said I was pretty nervous about this one. This is my favorite face from my favorite kit. So yeah, I was pretty nervous about it. I have a white watercolor pencil, which I did sharpen so that we would get a little bit better of a line here. And I think for this doll, you'll better be able to see what I was doing. I started with the wig, helping the wig to pinpoint where I'm going to start the hairline in the middle of the forehead, made a dot there, and then from there, angle it down toward the ears and what hopefully looks like a natural hairline. I have more hair from Doll Planet. I think this was called Sapphire Blue. It's in 10mm curls. So I'm going to cut this in half. It comes in 36-inch lengths. I'm going to cut it in half. Looks like I missed a couple strands there. And one of the great and fun things about rooting in curly hair is it separates itself into plugs. So I think curly, even more than textured hair, I think curly hair is maybe perfect for beginners. I was totally wrong when originally I avoided trying to root curly hair. I hadn't seen many videos on it. I didn't have any confidence about it, and I just didn't do it for the longest time. I did so many reroots just with all straight hair. And now that I'm doing the curly and textured hair, it's so much more fun. I wish I would have started there because you get more of that instant gratification since it doesn't take as long. On screen, you'll see that I'm starting this project the way I like to start all of my rooting or reroots when there's existing holes, is I like to start in the back of the hairline, kind of get myself warmed up. If I'm not at my best, then it's going to be in a less visible spot. Then once I get warmed up, filling in the back of the hairline, I often like to jump to the center of the forehead while I'm still pretty fresh and energetic, and then work on that. The hairline in the front of the face is the most important. It needs to be lined up straight, although with our curly hair here, it'll be doing us some favors. All of the fullness and volume from the curly hair would hide any small mistakes, or if you're uncertain, again, about how much hair to use. I did mention in the last video, one of the ways that you know how much hair you should be using on these projects is, one plug. I just broke the needle. I did mention, so I finished the entire last project with the needle from the project before, and then I broke it on this doll here. And then I finished this doll without breaking the needle that I just broke. So I replaced the needle here with one that I got from Shimmer Locks. Yeah, and then it made it all the way through this project. I didn't mention, but it is important that when you're pushing the needle into the doll's head, you want to stay perpendicular, at a right angle to the doll's head. If you're pulling, twisting, or bending, at all, it needs to go straight into the side of the head. Or you can put more stress on the needle. It's not really that big of a deal. If I'm making it sound complicated, it's really not. I was just trying to think of any potential pitfalls or, some advice that I could add. But starting with curly hair, that would be advice. And if you'd never rerooted a doll, I would certainly advise do a couple reroot dolls so you get familiarized with the pattern that they use to root the doll hair in, and a comfort level and some confidence. Earn yourself some confidence with a couple successful doll projects. There's surely dolls in your collection that came with saran hair or hair that you would prefer to change, and you can target those. I know that Gypsy from Broken Dolly TV, she is so clever. She was taking some of her project dolls, extra heads or things like that she had, and cutting the hair off and using those to root her doll to do it like on a budget. I thought that was so smart. She is so cute and so fun. I did hear back from my offer to collaborate with a couple of the other channels. I heard back from Mini Stitches. I shot her some of the ideas. I had to try to tamper myself because I wanted to send her like 20 different ideas with 3 different versions of kinds of ways we could collaborate. And I just narrowed it down to one version of an idea and then several different tweaks of it or whatever. I'm totally open though. Like, I don't have to run the show. I'm fine with somebody else. If they have this great idea that they're excited about, I'm fine with that too. I heard back from her again, and she had the best idea, and we're running with that. And then my other idea, we're going to do a second collab. It involves some other channels. It's going to be so exciting. And that brings me to another fun topic that comes up in the comments a lot with these dolls is the value. Like, is it a good value? Is it worth the money or not? And value is so personal. And even like within your own person, what is a good value and what isn't might not even make sense to you. Certainly probably won't make sense to anybody else. What is a good value to you? And a lot of it is kind of frame of reference. Like when I first started collecting dolls, like way, not when I was a child, but when I first as an adult started collecting dolls in my 20s, like over 30 years ago, it was porcelain dolls, antique porcelain dolls. And then some like designer dolls, the giant ones, the like 36, 40-inch dolls. Anyways, some vinyl dolls that were like lifelike children dolls. So the dolls I was collecting at that time, if I was lucky, started at $150, but most of them were between $300 to $600. And so yikes, obviously I would have to save up. Wasn't getting them as fast as I'm getting these Barbies, right? And then there was a break in my doll collecting. Life got busy, kids, I was working full time, going to college to get my degree, and had clients on the side, yeah. So I was super busy and my collecting just kind of fell to the wayside. Most recently, my dolls had been in storage and everything, my porcelain doll collection. A couple years ago, I started selling that off and using the money to buy, at that time, I only liked Barbie looks. So I would buy Barbie looks dolls if they came out. I would buy Rainbow High and Shadow High. I was really into Rainbow High and Shadow High. And then that transitioned into OMG dolls and LOL Surprise dolls. Less so the LOL Surprise, more of the OMG dolls. And then, that transitioned. But anyhow, so you could see that selling those expensive porcelain antique dolls bought quite a few. Every time I sold a doll, that would fund like a month or two's worth of doll shopping on different dolls that I was interested in buying. So for the most part, I've been selling off dolls from my collection to buy new things for my collection. And I bring all of this up because I'm embarrassed about having spent so much money on these dolls. And then I admitted I rushed through it, so you might have not noticed, but I did mention that I ordered a whole second set of these dolls. Okay, so on the video, let's get back to the video here. Amy's having some struggles with this project. I got overexcited and started rooting in hair before I even painted the head the right color. This isn't the first time I've done this on one of my projects. And usually I just go ahead, finish the project, don't paint the head, and then later I regret it because anytime the hair parts in a way you can see the scalp, it's blatantly obvious. It like jumps out at you. even though I used enough hair, it doesn't maybe look like I used enough hair because I didn't paint the scalp. So this time I'm just going to bite the bullet and paint it, even though I've already started putting hair in. Now, I'm making a couple mistakes here, which is why I've pulled it off camera closer to my face, is I accidentally painted too high onto the forehead. So then I stupidly used my finger to wipe it off. Now I have paint all over my fingers. This was not a good plan. Thank goodness I was at least smart enough to have a paper towel over here. As soon as I did it, I realized it was a bad idea having paint all over my fingers and touching this, my favorite of all of the dolls. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you're cringing right now, but yeah. The thing is that it's a little bit of nail polish remover. It will come right off. It won't be that big of a deal. I know this. Just be careful. I will do the nail polish remover in my bathroom. I don't know if you saw my makeover on the scientist doll with my first 5 Barbie Basics dolls. I got a duplicate of one of those so I could body swap the scientist doll with one of them. What was I going to say? Oh, I spilled my nail polish remover on my desk. I'm in the middle of saying how careful you need to be with nail polish remover. When I knock it over and spill it all over my desk, it melts some of the doll stands. Some of my doll shoes have kind of melted and left plastic from the shoe on the stand from the splash of the nail polish remover. My desk is covered with stuff. It was the worst place to splash and spill a bottle of nail polish remover. Quite exciting. But anyways, I no longer am willing to use nail polish remover on video just because it's just something I normally do in the bathroom where if I spill or I'm messy, look, see, I've gotten more paint on my finger now. And this is how I end up getting paint on the doll in places I don't mean to. So if in the earlier videos you got the impression that everything always goes smoothly, that's not the case. It often does, but every once in a while I can't say a bad day. But when this paint dried, the color dried way darker. I should have noticed on the lid that it was really dark in one spot, and it's not going to hide that. When I pulled the hair over and you could see gaps between that hair, it's an even higher contrast than the skin color was. This was even worse than painting it. So anyways, I did take it into the bathroom and I used some nail polish remover and a Q-tip to pull back where I had painted the hairline too close and painted over painted over my line that I drew for where the hairline was going to be. Yeah, I think what happened here, to be honest, is because this doll was so important to me, I got in my head about it, right? Because it was my favorite, and this is, yeah, I think back in the day for an ice skater to be able to pull off a triple Lutz during competition used to be a huge deal. I'm sure they do it all the time now because that's just the way sports are. And I haven't followed up, with my love of watching ice skating. I just have not kept up with that as I've grown up. So anyways, and that triple Lutz, everybody knowing that it was hard to pull off in competition, it would get into their head. They could do it during practice every single time. As soon as competition comes, fall, right? I think that's kind of ice skater head or whatever. I let myself intimidate myself on the project and then started making mistakes because that's how I roll. All in all, though, I like to just recover from it. And then I thought this might be great for some people who are nervous about doing it and things going wrong. Accidentally wiping off the face with nail polish remover. That would be disastrous. But all the mistakes I've made so far, I was able to recover from. They didn't affect the outcome of the final project. So this color on her head is much better when I pull the hair over it. There's a lot, really low contrast with the hair color and the color of the scalp. And that's what we're looking for. We don't need a perfect match to the hair color. We just need no contrast really with the hair color when you just drape it loosely over the head. So if that helps you, I hope it does. I also could have just added some white probably to this blue and done some color mixing instead of trying to find an out of the jar color. but I'd already started rooting the hair and was impatient to like get on with, let's just find something that works and go. I get like that. I'm pretty nervous all the way through this project, and I'll admit I was still even nervous it's done. So right now I'm working on the voiceover before the video's admittedly 100% done. Her hair's in, she's done, she's styled, but the dye has not yet come to do the dip dye part of the project that I promised in the beginning and that I definitely plan on doing. I just did the one color, and I just felt like, was that interesting enough, or was that kind of boring? Or the curls, the really long curls, interesting enough? I really liked how she looked in the wig, and I'm not sure. She doesn't look worse. I don't dislike the outcome. I'm not unhappy with the outcome. I don't regret doing it. Like, fine there. If I had any regrets, I'd just shave her head and start over, right? Like, no big deal. I'd already have the holes there from doing it the first time. It'd be even easier the second time. Exactly follow my rooting pattern with different hair, off I'd go. That getting into my head thing where I'm like, is it good enough? Is it interesting enough? Should I have done more? Like, was I being creative enough with what I had done? Was it boring? I don't know. The more I do, the harder it is to do something that feels interesting, right? The more dolls that I do, perhaps that's part of it. I think a big part of it, too, was that she was really looking good in the wigs. Like, she didn't have to have rooted hair. So I did bring up, and I know I was on a ramble before I had to cut back to describing what's happening in the video, about value. When you're used to spending $300 to $600 on a doll, obviously you buy way, way less. But then blowing $300 on 9 dolls obviously doesn't feel like as bad of a value to me. Right? I got 9 dolls for $300. 9 dolls that I'm having an amazing time with. I've never had so much engagement with my viewers. My channel's never done so well. I frankly never had so much fun with my dolls before as an adult. Well, that might not be true, but I'm having the time of my life with these dolls. And so, yeah, it's totally worth it. But yeah, so I started selling off my porcelain dolls. And I started collecting BJD dolls, like the real BJD dolls, the YOU, the ones that, again, they're like $300 to $600. They were in the same price range as my porcelain dolls. So I transitioned from one super expensive line of doll into another super expensive line of doll. And then I started seeing some of the Japanese dolls and the pull-up dolls, and I was loving those. And compared to the BJDs, the pull-up dolls were more affordable, around the $130, $140 price point. So I started collecting pull-up dolls. I collected a few of those, and it was during like the pull-up dolls that I discovered Rainbow High, Shadow High, Monster High, and transitioned into Playline dolls. And then my collection just exploded because they just seemed so affordable. I could buy like almost everything I wanted. I would sell one of my porcelain dolls. Sometimes I would sell like 3 in a week. So I would have all of this money to go shopping with and could just buy, like, I'm frugal about what I'm willing to spend on a doll, but I just bought almost every doll I wanted. Dolls were just pouring in. I lost count of how many dolls I bought. It was insane. It was crazy. I know one particular day, the mailman said it was the most packages he's ever delivered to a single house. In one day, it was 52 packages I received. Now, some of them were doll parts, doll shoes, doll accessories. They weren't all dolls because I was like fixing up and restoring the older dolls. So just having a grand old time, selling off my old collection and using that to pay for new stuff. So that's the other thing, is I don't have a budget for these dolls. Now, this time of year, I'm lucky because I'm like accounting, bookkeeping, taxes. During the first 3 months of the year, I make half of my income almost for the whole year. Happens during this first few months. So while I do need to save a ton of money to help, during the rest of the year when I don't make as much money, if I'm going to go crazy and make some stupid doll decisions, this is the time of year when it happens. and hello, bought the second kit. So that's coming today. I'm so embarrassed. I always hope that I can grab the giant, huge box off the porch so my husband doesn't haul it in and be like, oh my God, more dolls. He never says this. He never gives me attitude. He is so sweet, and I'm so blessed with this man. But the fear in me is that at some point he might have had enough. I don't know if we want to get into it here, but like when my first husband left me for somebody who looked almost exactly like me, but thinner and better taste in clothes, hadn't had a kid yet. Anyways, so he left me for someone else, but he complained that he hated my dolls. He hated everything about my dolls. At that time, I was restoring the antique dolls. But yeah, so being nervous about my partner hating my dolls, is realistic. It has happened to me in the past, even though this husband is so sweet. He would never be like that. But back to the project here, it is cruising along. Okay, I have enough rows going up the back of the head and ringing extra rows around the front and sides of the head that I'm ready to do the part line. I am loving this. I know I mentioned it in the last video. I wish I'd been doing this the whole time. It gives a nice feeling of satisfaction and completion. Having that part line half in. The process of not doing both sides of the part line at once, just having it half in and all off to one side. I'm loving this. I'm absolutely loving it. And then when you have no rooting pattern to follow, it really helps break the head into sections for you. It's really satisfying if when you if you decide to give this a try with one of your dolls. Don't blame me if you're not happy. I'm so sorry. If you make decisions you're not happy with later, please do not come at me. If you love it, it's still not on me. It's all you. If you do a great job and make great decisions, this project's all on you. If I helped inspire you or give you some confidence, great. I'd love to hear that. Nothing would make me happier than to inspire others. That's actually the logo of my channel, create and inspire. That's my two goals there. So yeah, so I'm just going to finish rooting in the hairline. I forgot where I was on my ramble, but I was pretty, down to, so like my husband's was forced to retire early. He never had great jobs. So his Social Security is very small and that's his only source of income. I suddenly became the breadwinner and have to support everyone and cover all the rest of all the bills. Like I'm suddenly supporting the whole household. This happened a couple years ago, but like, I wanted to play second fiddle to somebody else. I didn't want to be a solo performer here. So yeah, anyway, she's looking beautiful. So we are on a really tight budget actually. And you would look at my doll spending and be like, girl, you don't know. Well, I've actually been homeless in the past. I've had some pretty hard times in my past. We've lost everything and had to start over, I've actually had some pretty hard times. But how I finance this is through my eBay shop. I know I've mentioned it a couple times here. You don't have to go check it out. There's like nothing in there right now. I mean, why even bother looking for the Amy Plays with Dolls eBay shop? Because it's empty, right? There's nothing in there. But normally what I do is I still have some porcelain dolls to sell. I bought a bunch of my dolls in giant lots. That's how I got a good price per doll. I picked out the dolls I wanted, and then I have tubs of dolls. I want to sell in the first batch. I want to sell at least 100 dolls for my collection. Maybe some in-box stuff, maybe out of box. Like, I don't know. I can make a video out of it, but I want to go through and like just right out the gate, start with 100, get rid of 100 dolls. And then, so selling that stuff off. I also have an Etsy store where I make and sell customized dolls. I don't have as much time to do that as I would like. I also put some of my inventory of the kinds of dolls that I like to customize, like the little BJD bunnies I mentioned in my last video. I just keep my inventory available for sale in my shop so that it earns me money while I'm not doing anything with my doll stash, right? And I'd like to do more of that. I have this huge collection of Blythe dolls that I like to make over and customize. I think like 3 small shoebox sized tubs full of them. Or yeah, anyways, I've got, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 2 dozen Blythe dolls ready to customize. And, I should probably have those listed available for people to buy and use while I'm doing nothing with them. And I sell things out of there. So how I fund this hobby is usually not from my day job. That's what I consider bill paying money, and it's family money, and it's not blow on doll money. Although some of that did happen during March. March was a crazy month for doll purchases, for sure. I do have I tried to set myself a limit on dolls, and even though it's not reasonable, I felt like 100 dolls. If I could keep it to 100 or under 100 dolls, I would be doing good. I already bought 50 dolls, and we're only a quarter of the way through the year. So even though 100 dolls, buying 100 dolls, adding 100 dolls to my collection this year sounds insane, it's actually going to be hard to limit myself to that. And I'm already starting to make up new rules and break my rules. Like, is it a figurine or is it a doll? If I buy it for parts, does it count? Like I'm already trying to argue with my own rules. But our doll on camera is coming out great. We have half of the part line done. We've worked all the way up to one side of the part line. And then I flip the part over so that now that half of the doll is done. And then I will work up from the left side up to the part line here. And then the last thing I do will be finishing the part line. And I love doing it that way. I'm sure I've already said that before, but yeah, it really gives me that feeling of almost done. And while in reality, voiceover Amy, that's working on editing this video, is waiting for the dye, and I'll be filming the dip dye portion of this process later today. I'm so excited about that. I'm in between clients at work and working on the voiceover and getting some editing done. So I thought it would be fun to have just a little bit I know I did mention that I had already bought 50 dolls this year. I didn't count the parts bodies, the dolls that I bought just to be body donors. I didn't think that they counted because my goal is to have display room. Display room is the problem. And so I have all kinds of fun ideas for my channel. Let me know if you think that they're fun and exciting in the comments. One was to get out my sacks of hair and to do a little bit video on different hair types. I am not an expert. And unless you know because you bought the hair, it's hard to be 100% certain about what doll hair anything has, at least for me, if I'm trying to figure it out on my own. Often the other more expert doll channels have that information, and I'll share that if they, when they report back to me what it is. I feel like from having bought hair and rooted hair, I have gotten a lot better at just noticing how certain hair reacts. Is it wiry and kind of stiff? Or is it soft and compliant? How soft and compliant? How does it react to heat? That can tell you. And this brings up another subject that I'm so excited I remembered to talk about, which was heat, different temperatures of heat on the hair. So saran hair is the softest, most beautiful quality. It's preferred by most doll collectors to have the saran hair on the dolls. And there is a downside to that. If you've ever tried to restyle your doll's hair on those dolls, you'll notice that saran hair doesn't take to heat very well, so you have to be careful, and then maybe doesn't hold the style as much as I want anyhow. And then the other thing there's lots of positives for saran. I don't think I need to go into those. So I was just going to bring up the couple downsides to it, is that it's more expensive. So if you're a hobbyist, you're a crafter, you want to hoard a ridiculous supply of doll hair, then maybe saran isn't your option if you're on a budget, right? If you have an unlimited budget, woohoo! Or maybe you're better about just buying what you need and you don't go insane. So you spend less money, better quality hair. Every person, it's a personal choice. I'm not judging. You do what you like best and is most fun for you with your dolls, whether I like it or not, because as long as you're having fun, I like it. So on the video, I'm adding glue to the doll's head. I'm adding the smallest amount possible. I'll squish and squeeze the head around a little. Might use the Q-tip to spread it around, but I want a very thin layer of glue inside the head. If I put it on a pencil to kind of look at it and imagine how she'll look when it's on the body. Sometimes to hold it up for boil washing, things like that. I won't get any glue on the end of my pencil even while the glue is drying. Most people recommend waiting at least 24 hours. I think it totally depends on your humidity, the heat, all sorts of other things. If it's hot and it's dry, I'm not recommending it. Let me caution you, I am not recommending this. But I have gotten impatient and after only 2 hours, put the doll's head on the body, boil wash the hair. I did poke something inside to see if it felt tacky with the glue first. Tried to give it a little tacky test. And my couple things came out clean, and so I decided that was fine. Fun to change the eyes, and Amazon has delivered the dye, and we're all ready to give that a try. It will stain any plastics, not just the hair, so I need to use extra caution here to make sure not to stain things I don't want dyed. Like many creative people, I like trying to do things a different way. And so for dyeing, this is no different. I like filling a cup or a bowl or a small container with boiling water from my kettle and then adding some of the dye to that. This allows me to be extra scrimpy, I don't know, frugal, to use the smallest amount of the dye possible to have my batch. So fingers crossed that this is going to work, that it's not going to come out black. I was hoping to do like more of a gradual fade. Forgetting that maybe it would lighten a little after I rinsed it, things like that. Yeah, this is exciting and things move fast here. I have maybe half of the cup of boiling water and you just saw I just poured in, I don't know, quarter cup maybe or less. And then, poke her hair into the cup and use my paintbrush to poke it in there. Notice I put a towel to protect my desk from the splashing. And I have a landing zone at this old raggedy towel. It's all fraying and stuff. Wow, that took pretty dark pretty quickly. So I was afraid to leave it in there longer. Although part of me wishes I'd left the very, very tips in there just a little bit longer. But I was excited about how well it took the color. It wicked it up the hair a little bit. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's less obvious, the graduation, once I get it on her head and after I've rinsed it out. We do lose, it lightens up a little bit after I rinse it out. I was so excited about the color and I had extra left over that I took half of this 3mm curl and it was attached to something. So that made it easier to hold and dip in there and get back out of some leftover hair from my Abby Abominable project. And so I'm dyeing that with the leftover dye. It's still nice and hot and everything. And then I'll have half and half of the really dark and the lighter hair. That'll be great for some project. I don't even know what yet, but I'm excited about that. Let me clean up a little bit and we'll take a look at the finished look over on my desk with the hair, with the dip dye and everything. So exciting. Actually, before we do that really quick, I'll interject a picture of how she looked with her hair drying in the net and some still shots of her. And then we'll do the video wrap up for the end and you can get the final poses on my desk in front of the wall. Here we go. I wanted to be extra careful when rinsing the hair to not splash any on the doll's face or anything like that, so I didn't bring the camera along. I just rinsed it in cold water until the water ran clear so that the hair wouldn't continue to stain any of the things. And here we are. She's all done. I love my decision to add the dip dye. I am super happy with how she came out. I'm not sure if her name is Min or not, and if you watched my video where I popped up the name, I was kind of tired during editing, and I'm afraid I might have made a couple mistakes on those dolls. I think I got Lisette backwards. Reed I got right, but Lisette and Cheryl I think I got backwards. Part of it's because I have a niece that's named Lisette, and she looks a little bit like the one I thought might be named Lisette. So I was partial. I'd love to know what you think. If you're getting these dolls, I'm loving all the engagement in the comments. Don't stop there. Please like, subscribe, and share the content with anyone else you think might enjoy the videos. Thanks as always for watching. Happy doll hunting, and have a great day.